Hey, yo, LAZ, man, you heard, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that bell so you get a notification every time I drop a new episode. You heard? Over 600 episodes on this channel, the best hood stories, best jail stories you ever heard in your life. That's a whole fact. You heard? Type my name in, st.laz on Spotify and all streaming platforms to hear my music collection. I got over 200 of some of the best songs you ever heard in your life because I do this rap thing for real. You heard? Shout out to my bro, Truth Parker. Got another banger from him right now. Check it out.
Broadcasted live from New York City. It's the hottest channel on these YouTube streets. The best jail stories and hood stories are here. Make sure you subscribe today. LAZ.
Alright, so check this out, man. The other day, I was talking to this female that I've known for a decent amount of time or whatever. And she happened to ask me, what it was like spending so much time in prison all these years, and basically how the system works in here. Like she kind of wanted me to give her a detailed description or whatever of like what prison life is like. And at first, my reaction to it was kind of like, are you fucking serious? I was thinking she was trying to be funny or something. And, then it dawned on me later on that she was indeed dead serious. And I had to quickly come to realize that, for the whole length of time that I've known this girl, I've never really given her the inside info, so to speak, on what life is really like in here behind prison walls. Anytime we've ever conversated or whatever, I always try my best to not talk about prison life, and to keep our conversations about the outside world, what was going on in her life and what the future looks like, things like that. And the reason being is, and this really goes for anybody, for real, that I speak to regularly, outside of telling these stories to y'all and to you, Laz, but, by all means, if I'm able or given the opportunity, to escape from this place, even if it's just for a 20-minute phone call, by all means, I don't want to sit on the jack and talk about jail. To me, that shit is ridiculous, an absolute waste of a conversation. Real talk. So, anyway, I started giving it some thought afterwards, and I realized that, there's probably a whole lot of folks out there who, aside from, what they've seen on TV and movies, or even what they may watch on YouTube nowadays, for that matter, what they may have heard from someone they know, or through the grapevine, or even read in books. It's a lot of people who never really had the experience of being in here, and they truly don't got a clue what it's like. And be super curious to really see and hear and find out what it is and how it is, without truly having to live out that experience. So, me, man, I got to thinking and shit. And with all that said, I figured I'd go ahead and try to paint this picture real quick and give her and y'all, that real detailed description that she was looking for. And a quick little run through of a few things that come to my mind, as it relates to all that I've experienced living behind these walls. So, first and foremost, let me just state the obvious fact that ain't shit sweet about doing time in prison. Point blank. For starters, it gets real lonely in here. That's a fact. I don't care if you're part of an organization, gang, group, clique, if you got a wife, girlfriend, whatever. It gets lonely in these cells, man, especially at night, when you lock down with nothing but your thoughts of the outside or the world that you left behind. And I don't care how many friends you have or may think you got, how much family claims to love, miss, and care about you, how many homeboys, homegirls said they was going to hold you down. If you've actually got a substantial amount of time to do, that out of sight, out of mind cliche, that shit really becomes the norm, and people will always start to fade away, become more and more distant with you over time. And, that kind of just comes with the territory, some sooner than others, but trust and believe, man, it never fails. Sooner or later, you will just start becoming a memory to a lot of the folks that you once knew. And not only that, but, sometimes people die, and they pass on while you're in here. And I think, I actually lost count, man, when the number hit around 40 of all the family and close friends and associates that I've lost since I left the street. And then, you know, you got some people that move away, change their numbers. You know, they may stop communicating with you for whatever reasons. Stop answering the phone for you. You know, or you might just lose contact with them. They might not even bother trying to update you with any type of new info. It's like they just ain't never to be heard from again. You know? Almost as if they just fall off the face of the earth or some shit. But that's not really what it is, though. You know, it's really that you on the inside now, sitting still, while life out there still be lifing, moving fast, you know, but you're just not a part of it. And you really got to come to realize that, you know, you're not the priority that you think you are no more. Yeah, sad but true. You see, in here, you're living by a whole new set of rules. And you got to understand that, you know, and get used to it, because it's a whole nother world on the inside. And what people outside of here often fail to realize is, you know, by intentional design, we essentially get closed off and cut out and hidden from the rest of society. And then what tends to exist outside of here really got absolutely no relevance to life inside these walls. You see, it's a whole different ball game altogether. That's a fact. And you got to learn to adapt real quick. You know, or get swallowed up whole by the monsters and the wolves that live inside and underneath these concrete walls. Maybe even some of the demons that live inside you. You know? And this shit ain't no safe haven either. By no means. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, I'm constantly surrounded by brutality and savagery, violence and death on the regular. You know, where just about any and everything you can get your hands on could be made into some kind of weapon. I'm talking all kind of homemade knives, shanks and blades, ice picks, razors, locks and socks, you know, all that kind of hard, blunt objects and shit that'll crack your skull open like an egg. You know, I've seen broken broom and mop handles break bones, sharpened up toothbrushes and pens and pencils, boiling hot water, and a whole bunch of other shit, man, that I won't even reveal, that all gets used on the regular to cause pain and inflict damage on the next man. And that's why you got to stay on point, you know, and really watch your back. And then also watch your front. All the while you watching the people that's watching you. And at the same time, watching the people that's watching those people that's also watching you. And in return, they steadily watching you watch them. You know what I'm saying? You got to be aware of everything that's going on around you at all times. And look, it's no bullshit, man, but for years, you know, I've been surrounded by killers, mass murderers and rapists, child molesters, addicts and dealers, thieves and robbers, you know, violent, unhinged mental patients and undercover homos and booty bandits. Some of the best scammers and con men you probably ever see in your fucking life, man. There ain't no shortage of pimps and predators either. Gangbangers and wannabes and racist pieces of shit. I mean, I can go on and on with that shit. The point I'm trying to get across to you, though, is it ain't no shortage of fucked up personalities and mentally challenged health patients, you know, ignorant and depressed, devious and misled empty souls that roam around in these units with nothing more to do but think of ways to hurt you or get over on you some kind of way or take advantage of you in some kind of way, shape, or form. What I'm also saying is, you know, it's a lot of guys in here with life sentences, you know, both older and young, that ain't never going nowhere, and they ain't got nothing to lose. There's old heads in here, man, that been in here for forever. I'm talking like 30, 40 years or more, and still got 30, 40 more years to do. Think about that. You know what I mean? There's grown-ass kids and young adults in here with football numbers, man, longer than they ever been alive on this earth. Probably won't never ever get to complete their sentences, and they don't even know it yet. You know, for now, they just walk around on demon time, like they ain't got a clue or a care in the world, whether or not they either in or out your way. You know what I mean? They just trying to make it to the next day like the rest of us. And they don't give a second thought of getting you out their way if it means they think that'll better their situation even just a little bit. Look, man, I've been locked down and in the company of guys who just came off a death row, you know, after getting their sentences retracted or commuted, or cases resentenced or something like that. And when you see them, man, you could tell in their face that they just be so happy and so thankful now just to have a life sentence, you know, in order to just be able to live out whatever wasted time they got left on this planet without having to see that electric chair or that gas chamber or being laid out on that cold-ass gurney to get that lethal injection, what I call a hot shot. You know what I mean? This shit is scary, man. Ain't shit sweet about prison, you know? This ain't no Motel 6, man, by no means. And what I mean by that is, shit, it gets freezing cold and really damp here in the winter. You know, and them little ass paper thin blankets they give out, they just don't cut it, man. And then on the flip side, it gets hot as hell. I'm talking fish grease temperatures in the summer. You know, you can't even find a comfortable spot in your cell to try to sit still without dropping sweat. Most times, shit, especially in these higher levels, man, you might be in some rural area so far away from home and any type of normal civilization. The only type of other life forms you really get to see regularly, other than the zombies you live around and the assholes that work here, is like insects and rodents, mice and lizards. You know, birds, maybe some type of wild animals from a distance, and the vultures that might prey on the dead remains of anything that recently died in the area. Most times, ain't even no green grass, you know, no tall trees, no plants, no flowers to look at. Ain't no street signs, no cars. Shit, man, I've been in places that ain't even got no windows, so you don't ever even see no natural sunlight, ever. You know? Ain't no fresh air, man, flowing through your lungs. It's usually just stale-ass, musty, recycled, dusty, germ-infested air that gets recycled day and night through some type of old, decrepit, half-ass, working, outdated HVAC unit, and then being funneled through the nastiest and dirtiest air ducts and vents you probably ever seen in your life. No bullshit. Them shits probably ain't been cleaned in only God knows how long. I mean, I guess it's no wonder why niggas is always sick in this motherfucker. You know, if you're lucky, you may be allowed an hour outside, or more often than not, you know, that's just as long as you stay locked inside this man-sized dog cage by yourself, where the only view of something other than these gated walls is a straight shot overhead to the sky. You know, you might get to watch the clouds, or if you're lucky, you know, you might see a jet plane in the distance flying overhead. At all times, though, you're pretty much surrounded by cement center block walls, iron and steel bars, razor-sharp barbed wire fences and gates with electrical shockers on them, cameras everywhere, you know what I mean? Tall watchtowers with AR-15 and 12-gauge shotgun-toting guards who look like they're just waiting for a reason to test their aim out on you. Go ahead, step outside of that red line and act stupid if you want to. You'll see what I'm talking about. I tell you again, man, ain't shit sweet about being locked up. Shit, ain't nothing comfortable about living with another nigga, man, in a cramped up cell about the size of a small apartment bathroom, give or take, where you can stand in the middle of the floor and extend both your arms each way and touch both walls on either side of you. Yeah, that's how small it is. If you're lucky, you know, you might get some kind of resemblance of a small mirror that gets bolted on the wall just so you could glance at and watch yourself age in over the years. Most times, though, it's just a real dull, gray, scratched-up piece of plexiglass bolted down that you can't really see shit in. And that usually sits right above where your sink and your toilet's supposed to be, which in itself is really just a standard all-in-one stainless steel unit that tends to serve as your refrigerator and wash machine and sink, not only to wash your hands and face in, but also your dirty clothes and your dishes too, as well as a pisser and shitter. Yeah, you better hope that joint don't leak out on the floor when you're flushing it. That's why, you know, it's so important for me to keep that joint immaculately cleaned and not to be spitting in the sink part of it when you're brushing your teeth. That shit is gross to me. See, personal hygiene is a must, man. And unfortunately, you know, everybody don't clean up the same way. What I mean by that is, you might got a celly sometimes that's a real dirty-ass dude by nature. You know, he might have lived that way on the street, like a savage or a Viking or some shit. So you can't possibly expect for him to live in prison any differently and clean up after himself. You see, I'm in that habit of keeping a really clean and well-maintained living area. You know, even if it is just a measly 9x12 cement box. I guess I might got a slight form of OCD or something, because, you see, I always try to keep the floors swept and clean and the walls wiped down. You know, I keep all my belongings neat and in order, so to speak. And I don't like no dirty, sweaty, and stinking clothes laying around. That shit is real nasty to me. So, hopefully, you know, you and your cellmate is able to have or come to some type of understanding and get along with each other, because this the person that you're going to be spending the majority of your time around. You know, smelling each other farts and stinking asses and bad breath and whatever other bodily odors you got the luxury of inhaling. I'm saying, you ever tried taking a shit in front of another man? Shit. Trust me when I tell you, man, ain't no getting used to that. You understand what I'm saying? being locked in this tiny ass cell with another person, and that shit got way more other challenges too. I'm talking like your privacy. See, that shit goes completely out the window when you come to prison. And you may not even realize how important that shit is until you ain't got none no more. By the way, there's more celly on celly violence in these higher levels than anything else. And I guess because, that's because we stay locked down so much and dudes really get aggravated with each other quick. But real talk, I've probably seen and know of more dudes that have attacked or killed or even gotten killed by their cell partners behind some of the dumbest shit ever. See, this place, man, it got the potential to turn regular dudes into cold-hearted monsters. That's a fact. Oh yeah, and speaking of privacy, when you're a ward of the state or the U.S. government, that means the guards and the COs, they could come into your personal space anytime they feel it's necessary. Go through all your personal belongings, strip you down, dig through your pockets, go through your paperwork, tear up your bed area, rifle all through your clothes or personal property, confiscate things they seem to might believe is contraband. And for real, they don't even need a real reason to do this shit. It could be just pure harassment in its illest form. I've seen them come through and break shit up, throw shit all around disrespectively, step all over your sentimental pictures and personal items, tear up and lose and damage important documents and legal work, all kind of devilish shit like that. They don't even care either. They ain't got no respect or remorse for you. That shit be insane, man. Like I said, man, ain't shit sweet in prison. I mean, look at the shit they feed us, alright? I'm gonna touch on that type of garbage in a second, but for starters, let me just say, man, the portion sizes that they serve us alone ain't even enough to feed a small child, let alone a full-grown 200-pound man like myself. You gotta be out of your fucking mind to sit here and think and tell me that the nutritional guide and the calorie count that the DOC goes by is supposed to follow is accurate and up to date. That shit is impossible. And yet, they still use every trick in the book to cut corners with the serving sizes. Every single chance they get. See, in the jail, we call that shit shaking the spoon. And that 3 hots and a cot shit that most folks refer to, that shit is really just a bad joke for real, because if you force to survive off the food the jail provides you, you definitely gonna be hungry on many nights. I'm talking stomach in knots and rib touching your back type hungry. And that's even if you're even able to eat the shit they give you. Hell, check this out, right? Do me a favor. Google the term meat rock. Look at all the posted articles and see what you see. Read up on that shit. This is what's being served in the Virginia prisons statewide, and probably in a whole lot of other places too. It's used actually to make just about everything that gets served. And it don't matter how well you season or cook the shit, it's still gross. The freaking box the shit comes in clearly reads in big black bold letters, not for human consumption. Now think about that. You got guys in here that have been eating this shit for years and years, man. Clearly not by choice though, obviously out of necessity. And I guess, it's no wonder why cases of colon cancer, diabetes, and hypertension, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and so many other ailments and problems and internal medical issues is through the roof in prisons all across the country. It's like they're killing us slowly from the inside out. Remember, you are what you eat at the end of the day, right? You know the saying. And they constantly feeding us this garbage and bullshit. They be serving us things like old, stale-ass bread with mold all over it. Over and undercooked vegetables, rotten fruit, spoiled milk, raw potatoes and beans, discolored meat. Crap you wouldn't even feed to a dog, man. Shit. Dog probably wouldn't even eat it if you gave it to him anyway. And what's sad is, over time, man, we actually become accustomed to eating this crap. Not only that, but shit, the kitchens where this shit is prepared is always rat and mice, roach, and whatever else infested. On any given day, man, you might find a dead or live roach swimming in or crawling across your tray, eating your food before you even get a chance to eat it. Shit, man, you liable to see mice and rat droppings all over the floors and around and up on top of the counters where the food's being prepared, stored, and served. You may even find leftovers sometimes from breakfast or lunch still stuck in the corners of your dinner tray because it wasn't cleaned properly before they put it back on the line for reuse. Man, I've been to 6 different penitentiaries on this bid, and I've seen some of the nastiest shit you could ever imagine coming out of these prison chow halls and kitchens. And for the life of me, man, I just can't understand how any of them ever and always pass these supposedly random state inspections they be having. That shit is crazy to me. And that's why, for the most part, I stay away from them. And I try to survive off my commissary. But, I mean, that's a whole nother story, though. So look, I'm going to repeat it for you again, man. Ain't shit sweet about being in prison. Don't even get me started on the medical treatment and care. That shit is a joke. It's like nothing's a priority in here. I mean, aside from the urgency that you think is provided for violent acts and serious injuries, shit, man, I've seen guys having seizures, heart attacks, and strokes, overdoses, going into diabetic shocks and heat exhaustion and some more shit, and not even get the proper care. And that's not even considering chronic issues like cancer, or HIV, diabetes, and stuff like that. I'm talking about stuff as simple but as painful and aggravating as a toothache, or as contagious as the flu or the common cold. Man, they make you fill out all kinds of paperwork and request forms, written complaints and grievances and shit, and you still might not even get seen by a dentist or a doctor or a nurse for weeks or more. Shit is bad, man. You should have seen how it was in here when COVID hit the prison system. Again, though, I mean, that's a whole nother story, too. And I ain't even going to begin talking about that shit on here. But if you are interested, I did do a whole episode on the pandemic in prison on my podcast a while back. So I suggest you go and check that out. I also interviewed a former CO that worked at one of the prisons I was at during COVID. And he happened to go all the way in depth about the misconduct and the policies that was put in place during that time. But what I'm saying is, the simple over-the-counter remedies and medicines for like the simplest things like headaches, or rashes, or eczema, something as simple as athlete's foot or toe fungus or whatever. And that shit is like jumping through hoops and over hurdles, man, to even begin to get what's needed to solve the problem. It's crazy, man. I mean, you gotta be like literally and absolutely damn near dying to really get some attention for not only serious conditions, but just the simplest things. And most times, if you do get help, that shit is minimal and mediocre at best. It's sad, man. But medical malpractice is like a very real thing in prison. And unfortunately, man, it's just another one of those things that most always gets overlooked and swept under rugs and ignored and not talked about. Like it's a secret or some shit. You better not get real sick or injured or fucked up while you're in prison, because you most likely won't. I repeat, you will not receive the help you need. And that's sad, man, because at the end of the day, regardless of the crime that you've been convicted of, we still human beings. I mean, for the most part anyway. Like I said, man, ain't shit sweet in prison, bro. What you know about solitary confinement? What you heard about the SHU, or long-term seg, restrictive housing and things like that? Ever talked to somebody that either came off or was on death row? Shit. To hear some of the stories that these niggas tell, man, could make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, make your stomach turn, and have you cringing in your most comfortable seats. I'll say that shit for another episode too, but the point I'm trying to make is, this prison system is totally and fundamentally just an institution built on top of slavery and genocide, and then, precisely aimed at targeting most black and brown people and all others that deemed and categorized as considered the bottoms of society. And it's designed not to rehabilitate you, but, to literally regurgitate you, so to speak. Chew you up and spit you out type of shit. You understand what I'm saying? It's used to punish and restrict and hold and warehouse people far, far away from society's eyesight. Lock them away from their families and their friends, children and communities indefinitely, or for really, really long periods of time. So long that oftentimes, man, we might return to the world so fucked up, far behind and messed up intellectually and fundamentally that we could barely function properly by ourselves. We become like the undesirables or the unhirables, literally the burdens of the community and the very same folks that we left in the first place. You know, a lot of us be in bad shape, man, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And even more of us suffer from severe forms of PTSD. So badly that, man, that shit could be compared to the soldiers that be returning home from wars overseas that might have experienced intense battles or seen and witnessed some unimaginable and unforgettable shit. You know, similar to the guys that came back from Vietnam or Iraq or Afghanistan. It's like only a few of us, man, are really truly able to thrive properly, you know, and really become successful after being in here for so long. And then we consider to be like unicorns or diamonds in the rough. And that's because, you know, the majority of us usually at some point fall right back into the same criminal lifestyle that sent us away to begin with. Bugging and drugging and wilding out and shit. Feeling like opportunities get slim to none. And the weight of the world that gets carried on their shoulders just gets way too heavy for them to bear. And we tend to resort right back to what we know best. And unfortunately, wind up coming right back to the place we just left. The place we hate most, but tend to know so well and most familiar with. This stupid ass prison system. I used to have this saying, right, for certain dudes that was on their way home or whatever, you know, especially if it's a guy that's been in and out the system throughout his whole life and really likes to brag about how many different bids they did or how many different prisons or jails they've been to. You know, it's said that because this is where folks like that can actually thrive and live and actually be someone of importance. You know, when they become so used to and familiar with being confined and living like this, to where prison becomes home to them. Well, I used to say that when they do finally get to really go home to the free world, that they really just be on visiting time for real. You know, and they'll be coming right back to the place they know well and call home soon enough. And that's sad, but it's true. You know, and for reference, you ain't gotta just take my word for it. You know, you can go take a look at the statistics of all the recidivism rates all across the country. Now, for those that don't know, that's the stats, you know, that tell you how many people are returning to prison after being released. You know, the governor and the attorney general for Virginia and the DOC director, they've actually bragged on several occasions about Virginia's recidivism rates, claiming that it's one of the lowest in the country. You know, but that shit is a joke, for real, and a real slap in the face. Because, you see, the thing is, what they fail to mention when they say that shit is that Virginia also got one of the lowest number of returning citizens in the country. That's the people leaving from prison and returning back to society. So of course the recidivism rate is low. That's because ain't nobody going home out this motherfucker. The time the judges is giving out the niggas is just way fucking too long. You know, and parole don't even exist in VA no more. They got rid of that shit in 1995. So we out here stuck for the most part doing like 85 to 100% of a 20, 30, 40 or more year sentence. Now you go do the math on that shit. And look, that's not to say that some folks don't belong here, you know, or deserve to be here either. But come on, man. I mean, you got folks that have done or is doing their time 2, 3, 4 times over compared to somebody committing the same exact crime in other places somewhere else. This Commonwealth shit out here ain't no joke, man. Trust me when I tell you. This system is out of pocket, and it's really designed to just keep your ass buried away in this belly of the beast for a long, long time. Make no mistake about it, man. You come out here and do a crime and get caught, so you're going to do that stretch, that's for sure. And it definitely ain't nothing sweet about that. You know, you're going to earn yourself a one-way ticket to one of these 40-something penitentiaries they built, or countless jails and lockups that they use here to house your ass in. Hey, yo, check this out, man. Aside from all that stuff, right, because I can go on for days about this shit, but on some more personal shit, you know, y'all ever put any thought into not seeing your children or watching your kids grow up in pictures because you're too far away to get visits to see them grow up in real life? That shit really hits home for me because, you know, for one, look, one of my sons, he was a little baby when I left the streets. He's a teenager now and almost grown. And I hate to say it, but like he barely knows anything about his dad outside of what his moms and his siblings may have told him, or maybe the few times that she's traveled on the weekends to sit in some of these jail visiting rooms for a couple hours, if he even remembers that. You know, on top of these 20-minute phone calls here and there on the weekends. I also got a daughter, my oldest, You know, she's out there making a family and having kids of her own right now. That made me a whole granddad twice. Imagine that, you know. Then my other son and daughter, who I don't really get to speak to as often as I would like because, I mean, you know, life be lifing and all that. They got whole lives of their own too. They both in college, doing whatever it is college kids do. I mean, they full-blown adults now. They was basically kids when I left the street. So, you know, unfortunately, man, I've missed out on all the birthdays and the graduations and holidays, milestones, you know, all kind of little life events that's considered to be important. You know, and I can't make none of that shit up. Trust and believe, man, if you got children and you love them, this ain't how you want to be a part of their lives. Ain't nothing sweet about that shit. You know, what's really impactful about all that, though, at least to me it is, was the fact that, you know, I haven't even been able to be there to protect and properly teach and groom them the way that I would have liked to as a father. You know, not being able to show my daughters what to properly look for in a man and how they supposed to demand to be treated and all the things that he's supposed to be doing for them, let alone teaching them about self-sufficiency and not even depending on anybody but themselves. You know, I regret not being able to teach my sons by example how a real honorable man moves and conducts himself in a world full of snakes and clowns, separating themselves from all the bullshit. You know, shooting baskets and throwing footballs with them, watching them play sports and excel in all the things that they like and are good at, teaching them all about money and business and the importance of making the proper financial decisions early on in life. You know, all the shit they can't get taught in school. I say that because, you know, most people don't even know or ever heard of half the shit that I be teaching in here to dudes and showing others when it comes to this financial literacy stuff. You know, and that's because if no one of that caliber of knowledge or experience has ever taught or schooled you, you know, that shit will always be extra foreign to you. You can't learn the type of shit I'm talking about in no classroom. That and a whole lot more shit, you know, but that's a whole nother story though. And even though, you know, both my baby mothers and my kids have really done a pretty fantastic job of raising themselves and becoming responsible and successful people in their own right in my physical absence, I mean, I ain't got no complaints with none of that. I just know for a fact, though, that there's still a huge portion of information missing. So my point is, though, you know, I just haven't been able to pass that and other types of knowledge and information off to them yet properly. You see, those kind of conversations, they just don't fit into 20-minute phone calls. You understand what I'm saying? So, anyway, man, the moral to the story is pretty cut and dry. Basically straight to the point. Stay the fuck out of prison, man. Cause ain't shit sweet in here. You know? I mean, I know I've told some real heinous and seriously entertaining and interesting, sometimes funny stories about prison. You know, and some of the things that I've done and witnessed while being behind these walls and on them streets. But just know, though, you know, besides all the shock value it brings to those of y'all who's both familiar and unfamiliar with me and this lifestyle, those real life horror stories is really just cautionary tales, man, being told to y'all in efforts to, number one, keep the next man, mainly our youth, you know, from ever doing the exact same shit that's going to cause them some serious bodily harm or even their life while they do time in prison. And then two, you know, most importantly, just trying to keep folks from not even coming to prison in the first place. Because this shit ain't the place you want to be, man. Real talk. I'm just giving y'all a real small and fast glimpse into a world that I've lived in for a real long time now. You know, some of the shit that I've seen and experienced and some of the folks that I've met along the way. And look, I ain't nowhere near done yet. You know what I mean? Trust me when I tell you, I got stories for days. You know, probably like a whole another couple hundred episodes or more just about prison in the streets. And that ain't no exaggeration. You know, I mean, y'all probably wouldn't even believe some of the shit that I've seen, did, been through, you know, been involved in or took a part of. And I know a lot of people say it, man, but I mean it when I say this life of mine's been like a real life, up close and personal 3D cinematic movie, my nigga. And although, you know, I know I ain't gonna be able to just put each and every little thing out there and on full display for the camera and for everybody to see and hear on YouTube. Trust and believe, man. I said all that to say I got a whole lot more shit up my sleeve, man. And I'm gonna touch on all of that and describe and talk about it for all y'all in the near future. So stay tuned in because it's a whole lot more on the way. You understand what I'm saying? Look, I just want to shout out to, man, all my comrades, man, that's still here doing time with me behind these walls, and all my folks that made it home safely and is out there doing the damn thing, you know, spending time with their family and getting to the bag the right way. Shout out again to you, Laz, for, you know, man, keeping this platform alive and well and thriving, you know, for everybody inside and outside these walls. All my peoples that held me down all these years, man, and everybody who I met along the way that kept it a buck with me. You know what I mean? Big shout out to my whole Orange Ave platoon, my Black Mob family, and everybody else in Jersey, man. You already know what it is. Brooklyn, Bronx, Harlem, Queens, Staten Island, Long Island, the whole NYC, man, upstate too. The whole New York State for that matter. You know, all my folks in VA as well. Richmond and the whole 757 and everywhere else, everywhere that fucks with me, man. Everybody, scream at your boy. Don't forget, man, check out my website too at www.truthparker.com and make sure to check out my podcast on all music streaming platforms, Truth Beyond These Walls. Just know, man, I only got a few more short months in this joint. My time short as a tick stick right now, word up. I'm gonna be back in these streets in a heartbeat, so be on the lookout for some more real dope collaborations from Laz and myself in the near future, because we got some monumental shit planned for y'all. Aside from that, though, you know, I got some shit of my own in store too, so y'all will definitely be able to follow me, you know, on TikTok, IG, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and whatever else, you know, all that shit. Get at me. Stay updated and in the loop, man. Lastly, I just want to shout out all you listeners out there, man, that take the time to even check out my stories and hear me talk about my life. You know, just know I sincerely appreciate all the loves, the likes, the donations, the comments y'all be giving me. You know, and I promise to respond to each and every one of them in a couple more months. This your motherfucking boy, though. Truth Parker, man. Holla at me. One.
Go get the papers. Get the papers. Yeah, man, these dudes forcing us to upgrade our driver's licenses and state IDs again, man. Didn't we just do this a couple of years ago, man? Come on, my G's. How many mark of the beast we gotta have, man? Yo, it's officially a Luigi coat out there, like a woman's Luigi coat. Like, they call him Lulu. You heard? They're a secret society. All they ask is trust. But, you know, this is just craziness. Like, you know, they made a cult worshiping this dude, man. You heard? And they going hard. Yo, me and King Taco got a blazer out called Finer Things. You heard us on Vertigo, the DJ record pool right now, doing his thing. It already got a good 60 downloads. Like, that's 60 different DJs with that record. That's big business. It's not a game. You heard? All this is organic feedback too, man. We do this. King Taco, what up? Good garments. You heard? These Adidas tracksuits be trying to get my money, man. You heard? Because they be looking too fly. I'm a sucker for an excellent tracksuit, man. But they banging these 3 stripes real heavily. You heard? They banging them 3 stripes heavy, baby. I see y'all. Yeah, man, this joint is fire. They got it in pink and black too. Pink, black, and white. It's looking excellent. And yeah, man, you know, I ain't on here just to promote material stuff for y'all, you heard, so you can go spend your money. We just talking about what's fire, like. You heard? We can't hate on what's fire. If it's fire, it's fire. This is somebody's hard work, man. You heard? Somebody sat there and designed this, and they sitting around hoping that people feel this tracksuit, and I take that seriously, man. Know what I mean? I love this art of clothing design. I want to commend the man that said, yo, you know what? I got to make this joint right here look like this. Throw the stripes on the side of the legs like this. Boom. Then we gonna flip it and bounce it with the pink, black, and white joint. Like, you got to respect these individuals, man. But Good Garments community, man, let me know. Is this Adidas tracksuit a good garment? Is that pink, black, and white one a better garment? Which one is hotter? Let me know, man, in the comments. Get your promo attached to viral videos, you heard? Prices start at $100. Good Garments, we back at you. Y'all feeling these new Nike joints with the big wild foam soles? I kind of like these joints, I ain't even gonna lie, but yo, look, they got this billboard
where they showing ideas that may be possible for the future of Nigeria. Like, just imagining new joints. Like, do you see any of these joints on this billboard that you would actually rock? I ain't gonna lie, I saw one pair that I would actually want to get my hands on. And that's these right here. Ooh. Those is nice too. What y'all think? Hey yo, author Avery Brown just dropped part 2 to one of the most critically acclaimed books in the streets, The Blood Sagas. Part 2 is out now, Blood and Betrayal. Go to thebloodsaga.com and cop that now. Tell them Z-Man Suicide Polo with the Ski Man sent you. Hey yo, shout out to my bro Shrine B out of Jersey. You heard, check his new single with the bro Ransom. You heard, go on Spotify or any streaming platform and check this joint out. Matter of fact, I'ma pin this joint in the comment section so you can't miss it. You heard, leave a comment, tell him Z-Man sent you. Yerp.